Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. Mining Weekly editor Martin Creamer joins me today to discuss Vision 2030, the new addition to the Ivanhoe board, and the crisis in the PGMs industry. Welcome, Martin.
Hi, Sashni.
Now, the Department of Mineral Resources has said that a Vision 2030 for the mining industry is under development.
I think this is the best news release they've put out in the year. I mean, we've been dealing with these petty, fighty issues going on, and charter this and charter that, and all sorts of court cases, and once empowered, always empowered, and we've got all these fights going on that are just distracting. Now they're saying, no, we want a Vision 2030, at last, and that must be growth and competitively orientated. In addition to all the transformation and everything which is happening and which will happen. But you need this long-term vision. And 2030 isn't a long time for mining. You actually need another vision when you finish that to go beyond that 2050. So I think Gwedi Mantashe, after meeting in a fairly tight breakfast session with the platinum people and then going into a session with the industry, at the end of that day, he said, yes, we're going to have the mining charter in May, but we're also developing a Vision 2030. That is crucial for South Africa. It's got to be growth orientated. It's got to make us competitive. And it coincides with June, where there is going to be a big event. It's going to be a conference on Vision 2030. So now let's start looking long and getting some consistency. And once we've decided in that direction, don't change it, especially going forward to 2030. Don't start, the next minister comes in and he thinks he can rewrite the whole program. No. This industry will be there when we've gone through 7, 8, 9 ministers. They can't keep changing it. So I think Gwedi Mantashe is correct now. Come on, guys. I know we've got a lot of issues to sort out, relationships to sort out, but let's look at the big picture. Let's go for Vision 2030, and the hallmarks of that will be economic growth and competitiveness of whatever we do.
Now, talk to us about the news that former President Kgalema Motlanthe has joined the board of Ivanhoe Mines.
No, Kgalema Motlanthe, he's one of the 3 wise men of South Africa. We've seen them develop in the background. We've seen the way he was magnanimous in being president for a while to help South Africa, and then step back without ego to become deputy. He had come from the position of SG, which is Secretary General of the ANC, into the position of politics where he was, and gentlemanly and big, with no ego. He's always prepared to step aside and do what's best for South Africa, but mainly what's best for the people of South Africa, all the people of South Africa. So Kgalema Motlanthe has now been approached, by the Ivanhoe company, which has got a very interesting platinum project in Limpopo. And he has agreed to join that board. I think it's a very significant move. I think it's also a coup for Ivanhoe. Robert Friedland, he does tend to do these things. He always presents a very interesting picture of platinum. And at the last Indaba, he entitled it as a new dawn. Now we know in most respects it has become a crisis, particularly locally. But in his instance, he hasn't really got a mine yet. But he's developing that Platreef mine in a very different way. And of course, he will now have our former president, Kgalema Motlanthe, on his board. As I said, he's one of the 3 wise men of our country. And he will be a very important guiding light, because there are problems in platinum, no doubt about that. But from the point of view of Robert Friedland at the Platreef project, there have been some very important characteristics there. And the first is that this is going to be a modern mine. This is really going to be modern. It will almost be like doctors in a surgery, cutting their piece of ore out of the ground silently and safely and bringing it to surface. And in a very interesting manner, they're going to do this. But it's also the way he's locked the community in there, even though there have been ups and downs. He's brought in a lot of community members into this. The third point is the way he's got partners in there that are platinum users, and not just ordinary partners, but national partners. Japan coming in 2 sections of shareholding there. It means that he's got an offtake. Japan sees the value of platinum. A lot of countries are starting to see it, but Japan has seen it for a long time. And they've even got stationary generation of platinum using fuel cells in big apartments. They are building a hydrogen infrastructure so that the fuel cell vehicle can pull up at the pump and be refueled. They are far looking when it comes to platinum. And so this is a very interesting development there that could be a sort of a new direction for platinum, and coming in a very modern way. And very cleverly, Robert Friedland has asked our former president, Kgalema Motlanthe, to come onto that board, because he's been doing a lot of work in the background for South Africa. You know, what new legislation we should have, how we should go about things. So I think he's a key person that has been acquired by Ivanhoe, which is listed in Canada. And there hasn't been a great song and dance about his appointment here, but our staff writer in Canada has put the story through, and it's a very interesting one.
Now, you've mentioned a crisis in platinum, yet Gwede Mantashe fails to see a crisis.
It's interesting. You know, at this platinum breakfast this week, they all sat down and wanted to speak very openly about the state of the platinum business in South Africa. It's a very important business to us, but it's under extreme strain. And I think that Gwede Mantashe, in the short term, he's going to have a problem in this area, and he's going to have to solve it. He will solve it with all what he calls his social partners. I see he doesn't want to refer to stakeholders anywhere. He wants to refer to social partners, which includes business, which includes labor, which includes the community. And I think where he feels that he hasn't had enough input is in the communities. You can see him going out there and making sure he makes a lot of contact with them. But at the same time, the government is going to have to realize that the platinum price in dollars is shocking at the moment. You can be the best manager in the world. You might be the most sparkling manager that's ever been developed in the history of humankind. Try and carry on mining when that price, when they determine the price and that dollar price is so low. So, okay, that's terrible. You can start working towards that. Then you get a strengthening rand and you are hit by that as well, because your costs are now up, and your whole arrangement of offtake of your material has been damaged by scandals in the diesel sector in the United States, which is impacting on your best market, or what was your best market, Europe. And all of a sudden you have to scramble around and plead with China to try and get fuel cells, in India. Hey, look at our fuel cells. You need to clean your air. Come on, guys. But it's not going to be the snapping of a finger. So there is a crisis in platinum. And our new minister, Mr. Gwede Mantashe, I'm sure he's very acutely aware. But he was saying, you know, why are you saying this industry is dead? Why are you saying it's so stifled? Why are you calling this a crisis? Well, it's been called a crisis because it's a crisis. And, you know, we used to talk about the platinum price needing to be at a level of $1,800 an ounce to create an incentive for people to build new mines. The only incentive that this price of $920 an ounce creates is to close mines. That's your incentive, to close them. But in South Africa, you can't close them so easily, because you've got to put out Section 183 notices, 189 notices, and all the 100 and plenty notices, and you've got to sit down and you've got to work your relationship with your people and everybody else affected. That is not a slow process when suddenly this price springs on you. So I think that South Africa needs to look this straight in the eye and say, look, we've got a crisis. How are we going to deal with this? And they need to get around the minister and let's come to some sort of solution, because this is an important industry, and this is hopefully a short-term blip. If some of the projections you look at now, they don't look too good into the future, like 600 what were they talking about, 600 million ounces, or have I got the figure wrong? A small number of ounces now being demanded by Europe. If you look to 2040, or you look into the distance, if this decline continues, so they need to get more demand coming through from China and India, South America, all these other places, Africa, hopefully. I mean, we should be using this.
Yeah.
And also people see that in the mining industry, their own equipment should be fuel cell driven. A lot of the generation of electricity should be fuel cell related, but you've always got the hydrogen infrastructure that you need. And that's where you have to work with governments to try and get the regulatory process through. Germany is saying, in Hamburg, if you want to put up a new fuel station, you've got to have a hydrogen pump. Now, that should be happening around the world. It's not fast. It's not easy. So during this difficult period, I mean, the open cast mine like Mogalakwena is probably going to be okay. But when you get to the deep and the dark and sometimes dangerous mines, it's going to be an impossible task, I think, to actually keep those profitable. So I think we're going to have to watch this space.
Let's hope the crisis will soon be averted.
We hope so.
Thanks for speaking with us, Martin.
It's a great pleasure, Sashni.
That's it for today. Join us again next week for more news analysis on South Africa's mining industry.